Good evening, everyone. Awesome, we're live. Hello, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to Trek Central Live. And my name is, of course, Captain Jack. We're here on the 21st of February, 2021, to talk more Star Trek with you. I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, as per usual, Mr. Kit Wolski. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today. For today, I'm going to be Mirror Universe Captain Jack.
Oh, no.
So why don't you think about that? Yeah. Everything you say, I'm going to say the opposite. So you're having a great day. I'm having a bad day. There we go. You're excited to be here. I hate it. Boom.
Yeah, you've got the beard, sort of like you've got the start of a beard and the mustache going. So
I know this is the Snowpocalypse 2021, the Snowvid 2021 Mirror Universe beard. So.
And of course, we're joined by the Mr. One Lonely, our resident lawmaster here at Trek Central, Mr. Dom. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. If Nick's going to be the Mirror Universe, I'll be the Kelvin timeline with all this bright light of Captain Jack.
So I've actually got a funny story about this. Speaking of Kelvin timeline, so you know in the Kelvin timeline, the bridges and stuff like that are always like overexposed and like the lighting on it is like super intense, right? I mean, look at the Enterprise bridge, lens flare central. So in the flat I currently live in my ensuite, one of the light bulbs blew, so I had to replace it. Now, there's a couple of light bulbs left around by the previous tenants. I thought, oh, cool, they'll do it. No, of course it didn't fit because, you know, everyone uses different light bulbs in every room in his house because logic. So I bought some off Amazon. My bathroom, like the light above my sink was on a blown. It now looks like a bridge of the Enterprise when you walk in. It's so bright in there. I turned on the lights like, God, can't see anything. And I was like, I was going to tweet it, but it does seem like the bridge of a Kelvin ship in there at the minute. It is quite funny.
I like the fact that in the Kelvin Federation ships, everything is super bright. But when Admiral Marcus had the Vengeance, he was like, no, we're going to turn all that shit's turning off. Like, we're turning that way, way down. And it's super, like, relaxed environment in there. It's probably more chill. Can you imagine walking around all that lens flare? Your eyes would start to bleed. Terrible.
God damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not an optician, or whatever it is. I should know. I wear glasses, you know. I'd hope I know what's going on there. Anyway, everyone, thank you for joining us here on Trek Central Weekly this evening. We're, of course, talking about Starship Picard, Rogue Elements, and the various other book adventures. There's been some very interesting book news this weekend. We broke the story ourselves over on TrekCentral.net via exclusive article. Go check it out for the details. We are going to be discussing it today, sharing our thoughts on it regarding the Litverse, the new Starship Picard book, and what adventures we can expect in this area of the Star Trek fandom. As you know, the books is a fantastic element of the Star Trek fandom. If you've not had a chance to read any yet, go and read some. Honestly, some fantastic stuff there. You frequently hear me talk about the Destiny Trilogy and stuff like that. I love those books. I know Dom does as well. And there's plenty of other Star Trek books out there which are fantastic, including some modern ones, which is The Dark Veil. I've got it on my shelf here. You can't really see it. Dom's got it somewhere. We've all got Star Trek books we know and love. And there you go. Dom's got it as well. He's saying it's quite good. So plenty of stuff to read. Now, of course, if you are listening to this on our audio shows, you'll be able to see what we're showing. However, you can read the articles on TrekCentral.net, and of course, follow us there. If you do want to catch up with this show via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast platforms, you can head over to the website or the link down below in the video description to learn where you can listen to this on podcast format. Thank you to those who've been tuning in. It is kind of weird to listen to yourself on like Alexa and various stuff like that, I will admit. Like, I tried it the other day to test it, and I'm like, that's odd. Didn't imagine that one. But Nick, how are you doing, by the way? Because you've had some bad weather over in Texas, haven't you? So what's it like doing that? Because I saw, how did your charge stream go today? Because just before we dive into, you know, realm of Star Trek, how did that go?
It went great. There were some technical glitches at the beginning. I was trying to stream with my widescreen monitor so I could do some gaming, and that didn't work out right. So then I had to kind of call an audible there, but it worked out really well. We raised about $250, which, I mean, may not sound like a lot, but it was better than nothing. And I'm getting all those today. I'm going to wrap it up and get all those over to the charities that we were kind of working towards and stuff like that, which I think a lot of people are going to need. And I think every penny helps. And I'll be putting some donation cash in myself to kind of even that out a little bit as well. And yeah, but it was a good stream though. And yeah, it's been a heck of a week here. That's why I haven't really, it's whether there's been no Earl Grey on the Trek Central site this week because, you know, we were on kind of power restrictions and we didn't lose power, but it was the appropriate thing to do in my mind is to kind of hold off on doing all these studio things when I shouldn't be consuming that much power when they're asking us to conserve. But yeah, it's been a heck of a week, but I'm ready though. I'm back. I'm excited. We're rested. People are still struggling, but we gotta get out there and do our thing. So it's been interesting.
Well, thankfully, we've got a lot of Star Trek stuff to look forward to as well. Like, we've got books coming out now. We know Star Trek Picard is entering production. I think they're about to start filming. We've seen like Evan Gore has returned to set. Rafi Musica, aka Michelle Hurd, she's back on there as well. It won't be long for Sir Patrick Stewart himself's probably on set, and all of this is like going to. You can catch our full article recapping all of this over on TrekCentral.net. This is where we're posting a lot of our news content right now. And obviously, once Nick aka Kowalski is back in a good state, we'll be having the Earl Grey Pop to round up our weekly Star Trek news and various things like that. So keep an eye out for that. But also, we've got new books as well. This is something I'm really excited to talk about, as I don't get enough time to read books, unfortunately. But I do like following the news around them. Yeah. So obviously, this weekend we had Star Trek Picard Rogue Elements. Now, Dom, as you're our resident novel and book expert, can you tell us a bit about this book and where it came from, etc., and what's all the gist about it?
Well, the gist about it is it's all about Rios, our favorite captain character from Star Trek Picard. Obviously, my favorite. I'll say that.
Okay, settle down. Settle down. Okay.
Obviously, we got a little bit of his backstory in the show and how he went from Starfleet commander to rogue smuggler person. And this book is set after that, after he's left Starfleet and his exploits on the La Sirena. And it's looking very interesting. Obviously, it's written by John Jackson Miller, who has done some excellent books for Discovery with Enterprise War and the latest Giorgio book, Die Standing. His character work is really good, and there's also some links to the show which is put into his books. So with the Giorgio book, we had our first look at the character of San, who Giorgio hinted at in Discovery Season 3, which we might get in maybe the Section 31 show if, whenever that happens. But it's definitely looking that it is worthwhile to read these books if you want the full picture and you want, all these little details which us Trekkies love.
Of course, and this is something we always say. It's like, you can watch obviously like Discovery by itself or this upcoming Section 31 show presumably, and you get the nice story there. However, if you like adding bits extra to it, or the whole reason why a lot of the Star Trek books exist in the first place was to continue and add to the character's story. Once DS9 ended, there was still a lot of story to tell there, like what happened to Sisko, or did Bajor join the Federation, things like that, etc. There's tons of stuff to talk about there and develop. The books were like a lot of information at the time to go and process that. So it's great we still have them adding to the stuff we get on shows and movies, etc., and streaming right now, as that's a good purpose for them to be there, to also tell a really good story, but also add stuff to, the mainline Star Trek canon and stuff like that on shows as well. It's great to have them, really. That's what I like about it. Obviously, many universes do that.
And it's just also good that, you're reading this book and you're getting a payoff of, it is mentioned in the show, and you feel like it is a living, breathing universe. And the time you put into it is worthwhile.
I think that it's fair to say that the current series of books, and I don't really care what any of them say because they all say the same thing every time these books come out, which is, this is super connected to canon or whatever. But the bottom line is the current series of books that are being written are as close to canon as I think probably some of the, other than like the direct novel tie-ins for the actual films, but this is probably as close as we've gotten to books to the shows than we've ever had before, where they're really blending them really well together, where you're right to say like it is a bit more of like a living, breathing expansion of the universe. And I think it's great. I think that they're really zeroing in on a part of the franchise that has sustained it for a number of years, which is the novelization section of it. Even, there's been a lot of Star Trek books out there, and it's important to continue to cultivate that. And I think bringing them closer to the shows makes things a lot better. And I think like the Pike book was really, really good, which is also just a really great example of kind of fleshing out some of these things that don't really impact it directly, but like you said, like the fun, like little tidbits, like who is Giorgio referencing in that scene from Discovery Season 3? Like, well, you knew immediately because you were the one that was telling us like, oh, this is from the book. And we're like, well, we didn't even read that book. And you're like, no, this is totally cool. And this is definitely something, because everybody thought she was saying son at first. And I don't know if you guys remember that. Everybody thought, oh, she's saying son. And you're like, no, she's saying san. And that's this person in this book. So I think it's great. I think it's cool. And I can't wait to see more of Rios serving on board, maybe even going from his academy days all the way to when he's kind of on La Sirena. I don't know, but I want to see that. And I really would like to get a novelization version of his, I guess you could say, split personality holograms as well. Maybe we get some kind of pretense parts of the novel that don't just happen in the past as well. I think that'd be fun to kind of see some of those characters interact with each other in the novel as opposed to just seeing them on screen. That'd be fun.
That could be really interesting because the holograms were like a very interesting part of Star Trek Picard, like having those different variations of like them, like the creepy the hospitality one. Then you had I think you had the medical one at one point as well. And what was it? You had the medical one was the interesting one. You had Emmett, which was the tactical one, which just I think he only spoke Spanish, wasn't it, or was it Portuguese, or he only spoke like a certain language. And it was just like,
yeah, I think it was Portuguese.
Not giving,
which was great.
He wasn't giving a care in the world the whole time, which is fantastic. Like, I hope we get some more background from him and why they're loaded in there, because I think the show actually explained it to why they're all like versions of Rios. Did the show touch on that or not? I can't remember.
The show touched on the fact that it was just you can implant your personalities onto the holograms.
Yeah.
And I think he did that originally, and then he kind of regretted it and couldn't change it. But what the description of the book goes into, it says a little saying, Rios learns the hard way that good crew members are hard to find, even when you create your own. So we might, it seems likely that we'll get him thinking it's a good idea to create his own crew to get this semblance of family, but then realizing, oh, they're just versions of me.
That would
be great. Yeah.
See, Rogue Elements is novel coming up. I believe it is on sale is it August 2021? Is it
August 2021, yes.
Yeah, so I believe it is up for pre-order on some websites right now, and I think it should be on Amazon by now. So it's by John Jackson Miller. You can head to his personal blog, where he does, thankfully, mention us about the story, and I think he lists a couple of Amazon links down below. The official description reads as this: Starfleet was everything for Christopher Rios until one horrible, inexplicable day where everything went wrong. Aimless and adrift, he grasped a chance for a future as an independent freighter captain in an area betrayed by the Federation, the border region within the former Romulan Empire, his greatest desire to be left alone. But solitude isn't on the cards for the captain of La Serena, who falls into debt in a roving gang of hoodlums from a planet whose society is based off of Prohibition-era Earth. Teamed against his will with Ledger, his convincing overseer, Rios begins an odyssey that brings him into conflict with outlaws and fortune seekers, with power brokers and relic hunters across the stars. This is a bit I love as well. Exotic loves and locals wait as he dangers galore, and Rios learns the hard way, as Dominic said, about good crew members are hard to find even when you create your own. And while his meeting with Jean-Luc Picard is years away, Rios finds himself drawing on the Starfleet Legends experience when he discovers a mystery that began one of the galaxy's most important days. That's interesting there, one of the galaxy's most important days. What do we reckon that could be? Nick, any guesses?
One of the galaxies, I mean, I would say that it's probably going to be something related to the plot of the androids, the synthetics going rogue. I think they may even be trying to maybe connect something to the fact that maybe he was doing something that either accidentally assisted in the mission to corrupt, the android intelligence and turn them rogue, or perhaps was attempting to stop it, but wasn't able to for some reason or whatever, and then it made him more disillusioned. But I think that might be what they're talking about. That would be my assumption, is the big android uprising.
That could be interesting.
Just kind of tie it back in. Yeah,
I was gonna say something to do with Borg maybe, but Dom, any theories on your side?
Oh, I was trying to say maybe to do with the Romulan supernova, because they they talk a lot about the androids and stuff, but in the novel The Last Best Hope by Una McCormack, which is the novel following Picard, in his backstory for Star Trek Picard, it's described that the supernova is unnatural, because obviously when a star goes supernova, you can tell thousands of years in advance, and it's kind of unnatural that, oh, we just realized that the Romulan star is going supernova. So it could be something to do with that. I think that would be interesting, because obviously Star Trek Online linked with that plot thread being like, oh, this is why it was an unnatural supernova, because of Tal Shiar meddling and Iconians. I don't think we'll get that.
Iconians.
Iconians,
yeah, right.
If we did get that, I'd be impressed, because I've been wanting Iconians for a while now. If you get Iconians on the screen, actually, that could be really interesting. We was chatting about some Discovery, weren't we? It's like, oh, the Red Angel, it could be an Iconian. Obviously, that idea quickly went out the window, but oh well, a man can dream. Then it was back with Picard.
Like we don't know what we're talking about.
It's almost like it's almost like us and everybody else on this platform does not insiders for Star Trek. Fancy that, or any other media franchise for that matter.
But what's also interesting, which I would like this book to delve into, is this the former Romulan neutral zone. We know that the neutral zone basically fell apart after the relocation effort, because Picard brought Romulan civilians over the border and it basically destroyed it. But going into these outlaws, because Rios has said, like, oh, it's Kar Kantar, this warlord in the Kira sector.
Yeah.
He knows about this area, so we could get a lot of interesting stuff there, and a lot of interesting stories.
Maybe a run-in with
Especially
him.
talking about fortune seekers as well. And relic
I think it's
hunters,
also
so, yeah.
possible that we may get more Bjayzl. I think it's more possible that we could even see a little bit of a tie into the Picard Countdown comic.
Yeah.
Because remember, the whole premise behind that was Picard was running these missions to try to relocate, you know, essentially Romulans and
Or Verity.
Yeah, right. Or the Verity.
It may be an Odyssey class could appear.
Verity. We're not getting it. Stop it. But they were trying to relocate all those people, and maybe he was part of that in like an illegal way. Maybe he was kind of like running people through the border, like you were just talking about, Dom. Like maybe he was running people through and kind of smuggling folks to try to get out of the blast zone. But then it kind of went south, and maybe it went south because that warlord guy is like, yeah, no, these people aren't. You're not running them to become free. You're running them because I own them. And these are my people, and you know, something like that. It could get into a little bit more of a serious topic, so that would be interesting.
Yeah, I
The idea of relic hunters is interesting, and like stuff like that, and you know, people do that because obviously, I imagine like if everyone's like evacuating Romulan space and moving out of the neutral zone, that's going to leave a ton of stuff around. Like no one's got time to pack up the whole shop and leave, have they? There's a lot of stuff to be made money off there, so people either hunting relics or just like looking to scavenge stuff. So that'll be interesting. Someone in the chat just commented Vash. Do you remember her from Next Gen and DS9?
I think you mean Vash.
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 Say it in your best Patrick Stewart impression.
Vash. That's it. That's all I got.
I'm not even
That's all I've got
going
for
to
Vash.
attempt my Brent Spiner-esque impression as the Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I think that there's something. I think there's a lot to unpack there, but I want to throw a question out to you guys. And I don't know if a lot of people have made this comparison. Maybe we'll make more of these comparisons later on. But we now officially have two swashbuckling characters in Star Trek that have prominent roles. We've got Rios and we've also got Book. And I want to throw out, which one do you think that comparison is fair? Because they're both kind of these roguish smuggler type people that are in and out of the law and kind of like a thief with a heart of gold kind of attitude. Do you think the comparison's fair? And if so, which one do you kind of like more? I would throw out there.
I was literally, before you said it, I was literally saying, like, you know, Star Trek Picard's Han Solo is getting his own book now, you know, in a sense. It's like, it almost is really. But I probably prefer Rios a bit more. I don't know. I've not watched Picard in ages. Like, since last time I watched Picard was back in February last year, it might have been. Yeah,
April of 2020.
Yeah, and I remember watching the first 3 to 4 episodes when I was really ill, like after the premiere of last year. I was sat on the sofa, I'm going to watch it again. Fell asleep during episode 2 and woke up in episode 3. But no, I don't know. It's hard to choose. Dom, what do you think?
I would also say Rios, but what I want to bring up is that the description for this book says that the person Rios is teamed with is called Ledger, and Book is Book. I just think that's a weird connection.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Book. They're different. I mean, they're the same like archetype, but they're different enough.
Yeah.
I like Rios and his backstory and who he is, and I'm just excited to learn more about him and what makes him tick.
Yeah, I think it's fair to compare the archetypes, and I think they honestly both tick a lot of the same boxes when you look at just what they are. But I think that they've done a really good job of making sure that they were distinct characters. I feel more of an attachment to Rios, but I think that's only because we spent more time with him as opposed to Book, where he was kind of like in and out a lot during season 3. And I think he has the potential to overtake my love of Rios, which is saying a lot because I really like Rios. He's probably one of my favorite characters from the show beyond Picard himself. And I think Book has the opportunity to overtake him probably in the 4th season of Discovery if they give him a lot to do on the Discovery, because he was a fun character. Like, he felt very natural in the show. He worked really well with Sonequa Martin Green, and he felt very natural being in the show. And it was just, it just worked really well. Like, it didn't even feel like he was a new character. It felt like he was been there the whole time. So I'm going to stick with Rios for right now, but Book is a very close second, possibly overtaking him in the future, for sure.
I mean, speaking of which, obviously we spoke about this last week. We've got more books, like a book information. We've got book in a book information coming because Star Trek Discovery Wonderlands was a new book to talk about last week by Una McCormack.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming soon. Obviously, we know it's about Commander Burnham during her 1 year in the future alone. Also, she's there with Booker and she's going off searching for clues, etc. You know, it's Scooby-Doo and the gang back again. But no, we are going to get more book as well. So that's something to look forward to. Essentially, we're getting 2 books on the Han Solo. That's going to be a mouthful, isn't it? But yeah, that'll be interesting to tell. And also, we've got a few other books coming up as well. I've overused that word too much now. We've got Star Trek The Next Generation, The Shadows Have Offended by Cassandra Rose Clark. You can view all of this on Treks.net. We've done a big write-up on new Star Trek novels of 21, including the IDW comics, by the way. They're still continuing. Always good to read them. I really enjoy it. So we've got that coming on July 21st. There's Star Trek Deep Space Nine Revenant by Alex White. No synopsis for this just yet. That's due at the end of this year. Now, also released, which Darren, you talk about now, is the Mysterious Sea Trilogy, which is Star Trek CODA, isn't it? This was also revealed at the weekend by Dayton Ward, James Swallow, and David Mack. So 3 great Trek authors there. So Dom, what is the CODA Trilogy? Because I've not read up on this yet as well, so do tell.
So it seems like the CODA Trilogy is wrapping up the Litverse continuity of Star Trek. For those who don't know about the Litverse, it is ever since I think 2001 this continuity of books which interlinked into each other, sharing plot, characters, and all these different things, making a very, like I said before, living, breathing galaxy, going into different timelines, obviously, but mostly being in the post-TNG DS9 era. We've got the Destiny trilogy in there, which Jack talks about a lot. But, you know, it's been going on for a long time, and it seems like with all these new books, which obviously with these new shows, it kind of gets rid of this continuity because it's doing different things. So it looks like they're going to finish this off with a trilogy, and I'm very excited because those books are very good, and it's good to see it get this send-off that they want. It's not just like Legends in Star Wars, where it was just, oh, yeah, we're not doing anymore. Goodbye.
You had to bring it up. You just had to bring it up.
You did that early in the week as well.
Yeah. So we've got book 1, which is Moments Asunder, book 2, which is The Ashes of Tomorrow, and book 3, Oblivion's Gate. Oblivion's Gate sounds terrifying in what it might do, but I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I think it's a fair statement, and I don't think it's an overstatement to say that the Litverse that you're describing, from the start of the early 2000s to where we are now in 2021, which is, when you think about it, literally has been going on for 2 decades, which is insane to think about. That book series has essentially kept the franchise alive. Once you look at the end of Enterprise and, you know, the troublesome Kelvin trilogy that people are still kind of iffy about, that was like the backbone that was still producing content for the franchise. And to see it end is very important. I think it's important for us to talk about. I don't think enough people are giving enough attention and care to the Litverse with its impact to the franchise, and how that money rolling in was absolutely one of the gauges for the studios from saying, okay, there's still a lot of interest in these stories and these characters. How can we continue to make more of this and you know, keep the franchise alive, as opposed to it just completely shuttering all of its doors and relying on Pez dispenser sales or whatever they were selling for the original series stuff, you know? So I think it's great. I think it's bittersweet, I should say. It's so sad to see you go, but I'm really glad that it was here.
It's nice that it's getting, like, you know, as Dom Spare obviously posted Legends, it's getting like rounded off in a nice, good way by 3 talented authors as well. You know, some of the best in the Star Trek story sort of area. So it's great that it's being done, not just being like cast out, because that would really be a shame in a way to like never leave that finished. So if this is wrapping it up, that's fantastic. I can't wait for that. personally, you know, to wrap up that side of the story. But it also really shows that Viacom CBS and the over like all-arcing ruler of Star Trek currently is shifting to this more inline storytelling with the new content, which shows maybe getting to a way where books are becoming more in hand, a bit like how Star Wars is. And we have this conversation all the time with, you know, how the shows do. And we're already sort of seeing that, you know, there's books complementing, you know, the TV shows in a way, or technically streaming shows, you get my point. So if that's all moving in line there, that could be really interesting, and how that's filling in the gaps and telling different stories and expanding our characters. That sort of stuff is great. So it makes sense to nicely wrap up the older sort of stuff and, you know, make sure it's all neatly tied away and done for. So I'm really excited for that. So Star Trek Coda 1, Moments of Thunder by Dayton Ward is like September 2021. Then Coda 2, The Ashes of Tomorrow by James Swallow is October 2021. And then Coda 3, Oblivion's Gate by David Mack, November 2021. Safe to say, a very interesting and busy year for Star Trek books and novels. We've got a hell of a stuff to look forward to. There's also some untitled stuff currently coming up as well. You can check out all of this over on Treks.net. There is a ton of Star Trek books coming soon. Gents, out of all the ones we've spoken about so far, what's the one you're going to be picking up first and exploring? I think Rogue Elements is going to be the one for me. How about yourself, Nick? What book are you excited for?
I mean, obviously, I want to see the trilogy, but Rogue Elements is probably going to be the one that I'm going to probably get first. Yeah, for sure.
I'm pretty sure that's Dom's answer as well, but I'd be surprised if it was.
Well, no, then
Oh, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
say it would be
Of course.
Wonderland because it comes out before Rogue Element, so
True.
obviously I'm going to get it first.
The Wonderland's
If I
in
had a
May,
chance,
yeah.
It would be Rogue Element.
I think it's safe to say too, like this year. I mean, obviously, we know we've talked about this extensively here on the channel, which is this year is going to be a bit dry for produced content for Star Trek, and I think it's fair to say that they are leaning into some of these other outlets in order to keep again this backbone to keep the franchise in people's mouths and talking about it like we are now, which is authorship and books and comics that can be done remotely that don't require nearly as much work in terms of COVID restrictions, you know, to do that as opposed to production. So I think they're doing this in order to kind of keep the franchise going throughout the year, so that we can kind of, you know, have some stuff to talk about and dig into and theorize about as we get closer to the end of the year going into next year, which is when all the new live action shows are coming out.
This is also very similar to what, like, you know, we always compare to Star Wars as well as one of the big, like, conglomerate giants of media right now. Star Wars is something very similar. You've got video games, comics, books, other things, all keeping a franchise alive and ticking before new movies or new TV shows. Yes, they're also moving to TV shows at the minute, which is a more viable format rather than big giant movies, which only air every 3 or so years or even longer at the minute. So, you know, this stuff is kept alive. Also, if Star Trek had more video games as well, rather than mobile games, then probably that would also be added into, you know, stuff like this. One can hope for more Star Trek video games, but it's not like the 2009 game. But our dreams for a Star Trek Mass Effect game will wait till another day, or another couple of years, or a decade maybe. One can dream.
It'll come. It'll be here. I mean, they're following the model of Star Wars set out by Disney, which is animated shows, books and comics, big movies, television shows, video games. And the only thing that we're really missing right now is the video games, because everything else they're really pumping out pretty well.
What was
So
really
I think it's coming.
What was really interesting recently is one of Viacom CBS's like senior directors or whatever was appointed as a board member of Bungie, who, those who don't know, Bungie made Halo, the original people who made that, and they also made Destiny very recently. This came as an announcement that Bungie, the studio, were preparing to expand globally by opening up new offices, etc., and preparing for the expansion of the Destiny IP and I believe new products as well. Obviously, that doesn't mean anything in terms of Star Trek. However, Viacom CBS, you know, own Star Trek, and it's one of their biggest things right now, and one of their senior directors now sits as a board member on Bungie. I'm not saying it could lead to anything, however, interesting studio for crafting story-driven games, so who knows how that could go. It could lead to something, I don't know. Viacom CBS are very shy about game stuff, I'd say. Apart from mobile games, they never seem to touch like anything into like big games. I mean, it is interesting. It'd be nice to see them break into that.
They're being deliberate with it, and I think it's right to do that. I mean, I think, again, when you look at some of the lessons that they probably are taking from Disney, again, with the Star Wars IP, when they just wrote off the IP to EA, and EA took it and used and put it into its monetization machine and made everybody really mad. So they're like, well, we're not going to do that, and we definitely can't release a game that sucks. So I think they're being very careful with it, and I appreciate that, but I think I speak for most fans who are gamers and saying we've been patient enough and we're tired of playing Star Trek Online.
Well, the last big Star Trek video game technically was 8 years ago now, which was called Star Trek, which was the interesting one.
2013 one.
Yeah, it's a 2013 one, so technically the Star Trek 2009 one It's by Digital Extremes. Obviously, we've had since we've started Timelines. That doesn't really count, I'd say. It's just a browser game, really. Same with Alien Domain. We have Bridge Crew, which is a VR one. That never really succeeded very well. It's by Ubisoft. And Star Trek Adversary, I'm not even sure if that's... Yeah, it's been discontinued as of 2019, so that lasted a year. Or less than that, probably. But since then, no new games or major games. I think when we talk about games, we think of things like, Halo, etc., or, Mass Effect and stuff like that. Big, video games. It even has to be big. Still indie games can work really well. But it seems to be a very lack of stuff like that. There's a lot of mobile games currently in production. We have Star Trek Fleet Command, which is doing really well. It's got a very dedicated audience. The new Kobayashi Maru spin-off one and stuff like that. And obviously Star Trek Timelines itself, those do really well. And Star Trek Online still living up to where it is today. However, nothing else in that frontier just yet. So hopefully we'll get some stuff in the future. It appears, with the books being expanded as well, this could all be a part of some behind-the-scenes plan we're not privy to. And it'd be lovely to get some more information about it at some point. Perhaps Viacom CBS is looking at an expansion of, the media. Because we know they have this global franchise group. So maybe the books is like stage 1 or 2. Video games maybe stage 3 or 4. It depends how much money you can make out of it, because ultimately it is done from a business POV. They are there to make money, and as sad as it sounds to say, that is what they're doing. It's how businesses run. So books, I'd probably say, have a quicker turnaround. I'd hate to sound rude by saying it takes a year to take a book, but I imagine it's not as long as to take a writer or completely develop a video game. I'd say writing a book's probably a little bit shorter.
I would say that's probably true. I mean, obviously, we're not writing. This isn't War and Peace. They're writing a story about a character from the Star Trek, and they have a lot of lore to pull on. And that's not to disparage them, but to say making a video game from scratch and writing a book about a character that exists in a universe that has, 55 years of connected lore, I think is a little bit different. And I think we're going to get something. I think we're going to get something eventually. I would love to have an interview with, what is her name? Veronica Hart, who's in charge of the global franchise group. Come on the channel. Let's talk. Let's pick your brain. What are you guys doing? We'd love to know, or maybe we'll get some news this year. I don't know. This is going to be the year of, as we've talked about before, this is going to be the year of the news for Star Trek, because is just going to be all about keeping us teased and interested in the franchise for what they have in 2022. So we may get some announcements. I mean, even just an announcement would be mind-blowing, even if it doesn't come out for another 3 or 4 years, people are going to wait for something that's really, really good. And I think that's been proven time and again, that if you take your time and you release a product that's actually well made and without, with minimal bugs, then people will wait. I mean, they've just announced
was it Indiana Jones game? I think Ubisoft are making that, or no, it's another studio making it. And I can't remember who it is now. Bethesda, yeah, I always get them confused. Yeah. So that's being currently made as well. So it's really interesting. So Tim's just reminded me in the YouTube chat here about the Solaris Star Trek mods. This is Star Trek New Horizons. We show their trailer as part of our background things. Thanks to the team over there. That mod's always doing really well. So if you are a Star Trek fan, you're on PC, etc., and you do want to play some really cool Star Trek things, there is some fantastic mods for big video games like that, such as Solaris, Sins of the Solar Empire. There's a great mod for that called Star Trek Armada, which continues the original Armada games over on PC. It's got Dominion War, Romulans, Borg, etc. stuff. And if you actually want to run a proper Star Trek game where you manage your space empire in a sense, then the Solaris ones of that, as Solaris is a great game for it. You should try this out. We may be doing something here on the channel soon. For that, we've been talking about it for quite a while now for Star Trek New Horizons. That could be very interesting to see. So do keep an eye for that. It could be really cool. Gents, before we do our next topic, which I want to talk about the Archer thing, as that's been floating around quite a bit, and there's some new stuff to talk about on that, sort of rumor mill. I just want to mention this week, or last week, technically, yeah, this week. If you are or know anybody who's running a Star Trek podcast, I did tweet it on my personal Twitter at CaptainJackYT, but Trek Central is now in a position to offer podcast hosting and distribution help to other creators on the platform. So if anybody's interested in that, get in touch. It's on my personal Twitter, and I'll probably retweet it tomorrow just so people can take a look. We'll just put it out there, and I'll be releasing an article when we actually get this ball rolling on why we're doing it and why TC is excited to help other Star Trek creators out there and work with them to, do better inside the Star Trek community. It's a great task, and we really want to see other creators grow on the platform and talk about Star Trek, especially as we head into the new golden age of a franchise. It's a great time to be a Star Trek fan, and it's a great time to be making Star Trek content as well. I know we all do and love that, so it's going to be fantastic seeing what's going forward. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's going to be great. Ours is going to be the best podcast out there.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be tremendous.
Anyway, the Archer thing. So we spoke about, I think me and Dom touched on this last week or the week before with yourself now, I can't remember. But also there's been a rumor floating around, no credible information to it, that Scott Bakula is going to return as Jonathan Archer to Star Trek. Now, I'll say the site which put this up lists an inside source. Therefore, personally, and this is personally, I wouldn't put any concrete faith into that whatsoever. However, very recently, did you see that Scott Bakula's NCIS show is now ending? And I'm like,
yes,
probably it's just very convenient timing, but isn't it very weird? His show ends and a rumor popped up beforehand that, you know, he's coming back to Star Trek. And obviously NCIS is under CBS as well. So they could very easily go, hey, fancy popping over and working on this or something like that. I don't know. It's just, for me, it's like, that's just a little bit like, you know, coincidental, isn't it? I'm sure there's nothing to it whatsoever. But I was like, wow, okay, that's really funny. And I spotted it in the week.
I think if we get any Scott Bakula, it'll be a cameo. I don't think he's going to come back full swing. It's not going to be maybe we would be so fortunate if we got recurring guest, but I think it'll just be cameo. I think it'll maybe one episode perhaps would be do like one of those one-offs, especially if it's a Strange New World thing where they do more episodic content. Maybe they'll do an episode with Scott Bakula, kind of like the one episode of Enterprise where they have like the original engineer of the transporter or whatever, and he wanted to go find his son. You know, they could do something like that where it's like a mission that Archer wants to go finish up on and maybe ties back into one of the original missions from the Enterprise show. They could do something like that and have that just be like a one-off episode. That would be kind of fun. But it's
they go back in time to see President Archer giving a speech. While they're there, they notice Will Riker and Deanna Troi also there somehow, even though it was in a holodeck, and it's this whole illusion. It's like, wait, it's the Enterprise season 5? Always has been. That could be really
always has been. Boom.
Pike's just lightsabering him in the back. Did you see that image we stuck up on a TC Twitter in the week of Pike holding the lightsaber on Tattoo? TJ made that one. It was hilarious. Because they released Ansem out on the green screen. Of course people are going to do this. What do you think, CBS?
I know. I also don't think it's a coincidence either that last year was Scott Bakula's big triumphant return to the Star Trek franchise through Star Trek Day. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that there's probably some discussions happening about trying to get him back in, and they're clearly not shy about bringing back previous characters. I appreciate that they are more restrictive than they probably, need to be, I think, in some regards, because like I know Michael Dorn has been very open, as has LeVar Burton, have been like, yo, we're ready, let's go. And they haven't really brought them back yet, as far as we know, because they're being a bit more deliberate rather than opposed to going overboard. I appreciate that. But I think Scott Bakula coming back for a single episode or something like that would be freaking cool and give us diehard Enterprise fans something to really just rally around and be excited about.
Especially, isn't it Enterprise's anniversary soon? It's an anniversary for Enterprise soon, isn't it? No, what year did Enterprise come out again? Is it 2002 or 2001? I can't remember. Let's Google. Is it 2001?
2002?
It's 2001. So, yes, it's its 20th anniversary this year then, isn't it?
Yep.
So, yeah.
26th of September.
Damn, well, I better start writing a very cool video for that one. Everyone feel old now?
Yeah, I am. I'm like checking my, oh my gosh. My health. I know.
Somebody said in the chat, inside source equals kept well skin Reddit. Are you starting rumors on Scott Bakula returning again?
I don't have the time. I don't have the time right now to do that. But it's not. I'm not above that.
He's too busy doing other Star Trek things, which I know about, which we're not going to say.
That's right. We don't have time for that. Yeah, somebody threw out there, don't forget about T'Pol. I know everybody wants T'Pol to come back. Jolene Blaylock is not coming back to the franchise. She's just not coming back. I think it's a great idea. I wish she would come back, but I don't want to push it because I feel like if we push it too much and as a fandom, the studio is going to misinterpret that and they're going to try to bring back T'Pol and they may recast her, and that would be horrific. So Jolene Blaylock is not coming back. There's just no way she's not coming back. It makes me sad, but she's not coming back.
So I was just checking the wiki page for Enterprise was here, and it's she's not participated in any conventions or given interviews regarding her role on Star Trek Enterprise, except for FedCon in May 2005, so literally just as Enterprise would be ending. She did agree to join a 2013 cast reunion for an interview during a Blu-ray conversation production. She also appeared as a parody version of herself attending a Star Trek convention in a 2009 episode of a sitcom 10 items I've ever heard about, called Star Trek. But yeah, so that's, I don't think she's been in anything really recently either, so...
No, I did a little bit of research on it. I mean, she got married and had some kids, and is doing her own thing. I think she's not super big on social media. I think, and this is purely an assumption on my part and inference, is I don't think that things were as kosher on the set there than what we probably are led to believe. And I think she's probably, just taking the road of, I don't want to talk about it, and I'm just going to do my own thing.
A lot of people weren't happy with the ending of Enterprise. I think I recall recording an article years ago that Rick Berman had said it was the only time Scott Bakula swore at him, was very angry when they told him about the ending of Enterprise and how it was going to end. Because a lot of people, even the actors and Kazmik, disagreed with the ending of Enterprise heavily because it wasn't their ending in a sense. And I think we probably do a whole stream talking about it sometime. Maybe for the 20th anniversary, it'd be great to do some videos on this, because I think a lot of people viewed it that Enterprise's final wasn't an ending for the crew in a sense. It was Will Riker having a bash on holodeck, and Lower Decks even makes a joke about that in a way in its ending, saying, "Oh, I was just on holodeck watching the Archer thing again." It's like, it's been a long road for those guys.
Yeah, I know, and that's it. Yeah, it was a bad ending. They killed Trip for no reason, and yeah, it was. I mean, we get that it was rushed because obviously they didn't get their renewal. Yeah, but yeah, it was definitely them getting. It almost felt as though they didn't trust that crew and that cast really, but that crew to end their own show, and they had to bring in the big guns in order to do it. And even Jonathan Frakes has dunked on it. He's gone out and talked crap about that ending. He didn't like it either. So it's we could I think we could do
I think we'll live
stream about that.
We'll be discussing. And obviously, Star Trek Enterprise, I posted it's one of my favorites. One thing at the minute, I'm rewatching Stargate Atlantis, another big franchise, and of course Connor Trenier, who played Trip, appears in there as the Wraith Michael, and it's really thinking, I was just watching Enterprise for this, and now you're in his as well. But okay. And I think Steve, I was watching an episode of Stargate Atlantis today. Stephen Culp, who played Major, I've forgotten his name now. Was it Major? Say again.
Hayes.
Yeah, Major Hayes, yes. Mako. He appeared in it today in an episode where he got fed on by a wraith. But I was like, okay, I'm like, well, these Star Trek actors keep popping up, but it was filmed in a similar place, so it makes sense,
Listen, Connor Trenier, right, the guy, the Trip, he actually played the dad character of that weird, terrible Stargate prequel show, and he was supposed to be the old dad, and that was a really bad show. That was literally
horrific, their attempt, wasn't it? Because I remember the interview of that, and apparently he showed up on set. He's like, they did know I was in Atlantis, didn't they? And it's like, yeah, they know. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. It didn't make sense for him to play. It worked because he's a great actor. It was I just couldn't see him as that in a way. And also Star Trek Atlantis, we used actors all the time, or they had actors from SG-1 they pulled in to play other roles, which is great. I mean, Paul McGillian was Ernest Littlefield in SG-1, then he was Carson Beckett in. The fact they killed him off is still fucking appalling. I'm just going to be completely honest.
Now we're going off the rails. Who else have they killed off that they shouldn't have killed off?
They shouldn't have killed off Weir as well. But anyway, join us next week on the Stargate What's the Who's It podcast. But no. So yeah, the Archer thing, back to it. I think maybe this year, honestly, this year's an optimum time to make an announcement of anything Scott Bakula related in Enterprise in it. But 20th anniversary, that slipped my mind. Also, if we're heading up to September 26th as well, isn't that near Star Trek Day? I swear that's very similar.
When was Star Trek Day last year?
I'm gonna have to Google this because I've forgotten off the top of my head.
It was the day that Star Trek first premiered.
It was 8th of September, and then Enterprise on the 26th of September. Okay, so a whole month we're gonna get a good dose of Star Trek information, aren't we? So I'm just gonna book that off now. I'll be off for a month. Good luck, Kowalski. You're now in command.
Yeah, I think that this is a good time for it. I really do, and I'd be excited to see something. I mean, even if it was a short trek or something, I think we just want to see some of those characters return. And Captain Archer is I mean, he is the quintessential captain, right? He's the man, obviously he is supposed to be kind of compared to Kirk and all that stuff like that, but in a weird way, he would have been the inspiration for those characters in the universe to act that way. So he's the man, he's the guy that trailblazed it. He did the things, he made the Federation happen. And I think that it's just an iconic character, and they've referenced him before. They've referenced him a lot in Star Trek, including, Porthos, his dog, and I think it'd be great to get him back. I think they could bring him back, and Phlox. I think Phlox coming back would be great because we don't know how long Denobulans live for. He could still be alive. So
it was a great.
What is his name? John Billingsley.
Yeah. He appeared. Was it at DS? Not DST. the last Star Trek Las Vegas thing, they did a panel like with the doctors, and I'm pretty sure he was on that as well. They had like Gates McFadden there, I believe Wilson Cruz was on a panel. Can't remember if Robert Picard was there, but all the like Star Trek doctors were there talking about it. Everyone's still alive, obviously, which is good. Speaking of Archer, you say like he was quintessential like captain. He had one great quote from Terra Prime, which a lot of people argue is the Enterprise ending in a sense. Yeah. And I'm going to read this quote to you in a minute. It's quite a long way. It says, up until about 100 years ago, there was one question that burned in every human that made us study the stars and dream of traveling to them. Are we alone? Our generation is privileged to know the answer to that question. We're all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores, and yet more than I've experienced, the more I've learned. That's no matter how far we've traveled or how fast we get here, the most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond the next star, they're within us, woven into threads that bind us, all of us, to each other. The final frontier begins in this hall. Let's explore it together. Which, of course, gave birth to, the Coalition of Planets, and then what would become the United Federation of Planets. So there was a lot more Enterprise could have done there. And, like I say, even, I forgot his name now. Malcolm Reed's actor. Escapes my mind. Who played Malcolm Reed?
Dominic Patrick?
Not Patrick. Keating, yes,
Keating, not Patrick. Dominic Patrick is not, that's not
Even
right.
he said they were robbed, Dominic Stewart. No, they were robbed of like their whole, 7 seasons, etc., or 7 years, which is true, really, because Enterprise is going to explore the Romulan War, which I guess the Romulan War could have gone in like a DS9-esque thing. So we look at DS9, as a format of or template of a series. They started with all the Bajoran stuff and like the Cardassians, then they gave birth to Dominion War, and then season 7 saw the end of it. If Enterprise played its cards right, it could have done something very similar. We saw a founding of a coalition of planets, but we also saw the Romulans start meddling around there. Season 5 and 6 could have whole been like, Romulans messing around and doing stuff. Then season 7 could have been, going towards the Federation of Planets. The final of Enterprise as a whole could have been the founding of a Federation. You could have had Archer walking down there in the arena and signing it, and that could have been the end of Enterprise right there. That honestly would be great. CBS, I'm available for booking. No, I'm not. Take notes.
I mean, that speech that he gave at the end, I mean, that seems like a really great speech, but I feel like it's really just a really long-winded way to say, like, it's been a long road, getting from where they were to where they are. You know what I mean? It's been a long time.
Nick won't be joining us next week.
It's finally here, so yeah. I did a recut of the intro for Enterprise many years ago.
Yeah.
And I used that speech as the kind of narration on it, because it's literally the best, one of the best. It's in top 5 speeches, and that's saying something, because Picard's like full of great speeches, but it's top 5 speeches for sure. It's a great speech. Literally birthed the Federation. So
was it his final words, one of his words, just beyond the next planet, just beyond the next star. It's like one of the videos for like Star Trek's 50th anniversary, someone put like a big montage video of Star Trek stuff together, and I love that moment. It's like, just beyond the next planet, just beyond the next star, you can discover something like fantastic. It's like Star Trek's full of great quotes, and I believe Archer had a lot. And also, one of the big things with Enterprise was discovering like the Prime Directive, or like giving birth to it in a way, because there's a great conversation between Phlox and how do they help one species like become the dominant one, interfere, and that's why like the Prime Directive and these like protocols were installed, because Archer essentially gave birth to them in a way through like his exploration of the Enterprise. And that it is such a shame they were robbed of their really.
Yeah, I agree, but hopefully we'll get some cameo. That'd be fun.
We've got a lot to look forward to this year in terms of Star Trek, so there's plenty to explore. Obviously, Strange New Worlds is now about to be filming, Picard is about to be filming, and obviously Discovery is still underway. What we'll see this year, we do not know. We've got hopefully Prodigy news at some point, Lower Deck Season 2, whereas a hell of a lot of Star Trek to talk about as per usual, as that would be fantastic. I literally can't wait for that. Oh, it's been it's going to be busy. Are you wearing that Badgie shirt, by the way? I've just clocked that.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Badgie shirt. Duh. I mean, hello. Representing one of the best Star Trek shows. Okay. Now, I actually found it in the closet the other day, and I was like, I should wear this more often. I don't know. I spent all this money on it. I should probably bring it out. So I dusted it off this morning. It's filled with cat hair right now. You just can't see it on camera. I'm
wearing a Halo Infinite hoodie because, my dreams have been crushed already. So I'm just remembering the game.
I was wondering what you were wearing. I was actually going to ask you after we got off stream, because it looked like it looked interesting. I was like, really what is he wearing? Well,
I was wearing a jumper beforehand, my NASA one, but for some reason it's like kind of like weird marks on it. I'm not sure if I've like dusting something. I looked in the mirror, I was like, I can't wear this on stream. I look filthy. So I'm like, let's go throw this on instead. Like, it's the only time I've worn it this year. So we're doing that. Well, gents, I think we've reached a good time to end off here on our stream, as we've covered like nearly everything today, which is fantastic. Chat, I appreciate you all popping by. Thank you to over 100 of you for viewing today here on Trek Central Weekly. Remember, you can check out more information about the latest Star Trek news on our socials. All the links are down below, and of course via trekcentral.net. Don't forget, Star Trek Picard new books coming out soon, along with a range of new novels. You can check out an exclusive article on our site, and that's fantastic. Also, new IDW comics coming very soon. And, you know, a load of other news, including Star Trek Year 5 and Picard Season 2 beginning filming. A ton of Star Trek stuff to explore. I've been Captain Jack. Thank you for joining us tonight. I've been joined by Mr. Ketwolski and Mr. Dom. Gents, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And of course, next week, Mr. Ketwolski will be hosting Trek Central Live, or Trek Central Weekly Live, as I will be off doing a 24-hour live stream for charity. So if you want to come watch that, I'll be live on Saturday, February 27th on my channel, youtube.com/CaptainJack. Please, God help me, as it'll be 24 hours of time, which I'll be awake for. I mean, it's normal, but it'll be fun.
You can do it. We believe in you.
I might pop in for a cameo on the stream if I'm still alive by that time.
Listen, you might as well just roll it right in. You're going to be awake anyway. So
it's like, everyone go watch this now.
Yeah, put it on the schedule.
We'll just bump everything an hour forward a little bit slightly. So as soon as I end, I was like, right, I'll be back in 5, run around the desk, set everything up, go from there. It's like with matchsticks in the eyes, like, hello.
Hello, I'm awake. Yeah.
We're going to talk about Star Trek. Anyway, everyone, thank you for joining Trek Central Weekly. We'll be back next week, or Nick and Dom and maybe someone else will be back next week. We do appreciate you tuning in as per usual. Check out this week's coming videos, including Star Trek Strange New Worlds and Star Trek Picard Season 2. I've been Captain Jack. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.